Right, so I'm really excited to have here Cult of Dusty. He's got over 240,000 subscribers on YouTube, millions of channel views. He's somebody who you guys probably consider to be kind of someone who's an anti-skeptic right now that's been going on. How's it going, man?
It's going awesome, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well as well, man. So, really, to kind of start out this, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you became an atheist and, your channel, because I myself found your channel a long time ago, became a huge fan of it, and I was just kind of hoping you could kind of touch on your story of how you became an atheist and what made you decide to start the channel.
Well, as many people know, I was born in the cult of Christianity. I was born Southern Pentecostal, which is crazy as fuck. It's like almost as crazy as snake handling, but not quite that bad, but just about. So I didn't really have a choice, when you're born to the cult, everybody you love, trust, take care of you, telling you it's true. So you have no reason to think they're lying. They don't know they're lying. So I was hardcore to the ministry for a long time. I was studying to be a preacher. I was the leader of my youth group.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I
Wow.
met my best friend, Stephen, at church when we were 12 years old. We were both in the youth group together. Anyway, he grew up and he started watching the Science Channel, the evil fucking Science Channel, and learned about evolution and shit. And of course, his mom was a big Christian too. And she was starting to freak out about it. So she started sending him Ken Hovind videos. I
Cool.
don't know if you know who Ken Hovind is.
Yeah, I do.
But so then I got really fucking heavy into Ken Hovind because I want to prove my friend Steven wrong. So I was like the biggest fucking Ken Hovind fan. Like I had his shit on torrents for like 5 years,
Wow.
making sure I kept them seated so everybody could see Ken Hovind shit. I could like recite that stuff off the top of my head. I
I'm
was really
assuming you're
into it.
I'm assuming you're no longer a Ken Hovind fan.
Still love him. He's an amazing man. No. And I'm feeling much better now. Eventually, I decided to go ahead and research the stuff heavily to shut my friend Steven up because, God's real and he's dumb as shit.
Yeah.
So I went out and researched everything really hard, and the rest is history. I realized he wasn't wrong. I was wrong. I'm a fucking idiot. And I've talked about this in a few other videos. It was really hard for me to question at first. Because as a Christian, they teach you that even questioning can lead to your torture for eternity.
Yeah.
And who would risk that?
Right. Right.
What if you might be right, you might find out Christianity's not true, but if you're wrong, it's not worth the risk of being tortured even for 5 minutes, much less eternity. So
Right.
I remember the thoughts of, am I going to question? And the butterflies I had in my stomach for like days and days when I had to decide if I was actually going to question this. And eventually I got over it and I decided to question it and I decided to research it. And I found out, evolution's true. Christianity's bullshit. The historicity of Jesus has never been proven. Just on every single level, it's bullshit. And of course, then when I figured that out, I was like, well, shit, I have to tell everybody, I have like a no man left behind policy. I can't leave all my family at the cult without, trying to at least tell them what the fucking truth is. So
Right.
I did it the only way I knew how, and that was to start a YouTube channel. I was actually inspired by the Amazing Atheist. I
Uh,
saw he did it, and I was like, if this guy can do it, I can fucking do it. So I did it.
so for me, because I'm an ex-Muslim as well, the thing I really started the kind of beginning for me was the really turn off to the religion and all the things that you have to constantly be doing. And I was just kind of wondering, what was the first thing that really turned you off in terms of there's something going on here, or this is wrong, or something, that you start to kind of at least contemplate the denial of the religion.
Well, I know it's going to sound strange, but I was taught all my life that marijuana was evil.
Uh huh.
Marijuana was, because I was raised really religious. Marijuana was an evil drug. And so one day I had kidney stone pain, and somebody handed me a joint. They said, just try to smoke it, motherfucker. Just try it.
Uh huh.
And I smoked it, and I realized I had been lied to my whole life by my church about marijuana. It was nothing, really. It was very, very minor. And so I was like, well, if they lied to me about this, what the fuck else did they lie to me about it? So that was really the catalyst that helped me start researching it. But
Wow. So
um,
marijuana was the catalyst for that.
marijuana, Joe Rogan videos, even though like I have my differences with Joe Rogan today, he made some videos that kind of opened my mind about that. And of course, when I started smoking weed a little bit, it really opened my mind up to like new ways of thinking about things that I had never done before. Because that's what weed does. That's why it's very helpful with the creative process. Um, but other than that, I would have to say Richard Dawkins' videos for
Wow.
children about evolution.
Mhm.
Like they should have taught me that shit in school. But instead, he's over in England, teaching kids over there this kind of shit. Shit I should have been learning. I had to learn as an adult. And I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was like, nobody ever fucking told me that. It's so simple. It's so obvious. how come? But of course, education in Mississippi, where I grew up, is
Well, what is the
quite lacking.
education system in Mississippi like? Especially when it
Oh,
comes to kind of evolution and creation and stuff like that. What kind of stuff are they teaching
I,
you?
I was never taught evolution, to be honest with you.
Not at all.
No, I was never taught
Oh,
evolution. Not that I can recall. Just to give you an idea, when I was a kid, they actually had speakers come to my house, not come to the school and talk about how apartheid in Africa was a good thing.
wow,
Like pro-apartheid speakers at my fucking school, man. That's the kind of shit
wow,
it was crazy.
that's terrible. So,
Uh,
I guess I would say you're probably one of the OG members of the skeptic community, and something that's kind of happened, and you've talked about this and got a lot of hate for it as well, is the so when you made that video saying how the alt right like took over the skeptic community, you got a lot of hate for that. But it's very true that the skeptic community has flipped right. It's very clear, and with it's starting out as kind of being anti-Christianity, now it's flipping right. I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, how it happened, and just how do you feel about it now?
well, first off, I made a video talking about how the skeptic community was turned alt-right. I want to clarify. Back in the day, like a year and a half ago, before Trump was president, alt-right had a different connotation than it does now.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's pretty much completely racist. But
Uh-huh.
back then, even black people, Asian people were calling themselves alt-right. It was like a hot new buzzword in the conservative community. So what I considered alt-right then is now known as alt-light, basically.
Oh, okay.
So I want to make that clarification. So when I say that the skeptic community is turned alt-right, I'm not really talking about racism so much. I mean, there's a lot of that in there too. I'm not saying there's not, but when I said people like, Armor Skeptic and TJ and, Chris Ray Gun and people were alt-right, what I meant was they're basically alt-light because
I see.
the terminology has changed. But the reason it happened basically was because people got sick of Christian videos. People want to hate on things. Hating on things makes you feel good about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
releases pleasurable chemicals in your brain. But people got bored of the religious videos, and so the trend switched, and all the channels had to find something new to entertain their audiences with and make money and garner fame. And so they all jumped on the anti-social justice warrior bandwagon. They
Yeah.
went out to the internet and they nuts pick. That's my favorite word. Nut picking is basically where you go out and find the crazies, and then you introduce the crazies to your audience and pretend like they're a representative of
Yeah.
the entire group, which they're not. Most of
Yeah.
these left-wing people they pick are not representative of people I know. I'm a left-wing guy or a liberal, and most of the things they claim social justice warriors and lefties believe in, me and my friends, we don't believe in that. We're all about free speech. We don't care if somebody speaks.
Yeah.
But I guess to answer your question, I think mostly it happened because these people were looking for fame and money. And so they just jumped on the bandwagon and they rode it hard. And they don't really give a shit that what they're doing is actually empowering conservatives, helping conservatives take and maintain power.
Yeah.
Even though most of these people call themselves liberals, like, Shoe on Head, Armored Skeptic, Ray Gun, all of them call themselves liberals. But what they're doing is actually empowering conservatives. So if you call yourself a liberal, but your actions actually help conservatives, are you
Right.
really a liberal or not?
Yes.
Your actions kind of prove what you really believe, in my opinion.
I think that's a good question as well. But someone we've seen who's gotten really popular in the skeptic community is Jordan Peterson, and you've made some videos opposing him, and they're pretty much the only videos opposing him almost on all of YouTube, or at least anyone significant criticizing Jordan Peterson. And I was just kind of wondering, because I think if I'm not mistaken, he's making like $100,000 a month on Patreon now,
Yes,
and
yes.
just I was wondering what your thoughts are on Jordan Peterson and the whole C16 thing, as well as just what he's been doing and his rise. What your thoughts are on that, especially because with the skeptic community starting out as being anti-Christianity, and now the skeptic community harboring someone who is kind of a constant propagator and almost like a preacher of Christianity. So
A presuppositional apologist.
Yes,
Just,
exactly.
exactly the kind of person that the skeptic community was created to destroy.
Exactly.
And that's the same before I started. There are a few other people that are doing anti-Peterson videos, like TJ, the Amazing Atheist, has done a couple. Atheism is Unstoppable, who I don't really care for that much because I think he's sort of racist, but he has a couple anti-Peterson videos that are pretty good. And there are a couple other people that are doing it too. But you're right. Most of the skeptic community is completely silent, or they're supporting him. They're outright, backing him up. Basically, Peterson is an interesting fellow because I actually think he's a really smart guy. He's an excellent performer. Basically, that's what college professors basically are. They're basically almost like stand-up comedians in a way. They're very polished performers. They're used to standing up in front of a crowd and giving long speeches, and he can recall information so quick, and he's a really good orator. But the problem is, so much of what he's saying is just utter bullshit.
Yeah.
And but the way he speaks in a language that most people are not used to. So it sounds fucking genius.
Right.
Unless you actually break down what he's saying and realize it's mostly just fucking either common sense or bullshit.
Right.
That's all he does. He says incredibly simple things in incredibly complicated ways, mixed with a ton of fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And as I made a video about how he really got famous was his opposition to C-16, which is a Canadian law they passed that basically adds transgender people to the list of categories you can't discriminate against. You can't discriminate against black people, disabled people, gay people, and now you can't discriminate against transgender people just because they're transgender. Right. We basically went in public and started making all these wild accusations, like you could be charged with a hate crime simply for making some fun of somebody's fashion. Total fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And
of course, he has mostly a right-wing fan base, and it's riled up the right wing and created a ton of fucking hate against transgender people.
Yeah.
And so obviously he got a lot of backlash. But then, of course, the skeptic community in Peterson used this to paint himself as a victim, like they were just trying to silence his free speech, like he was this big free speech warrior. And all these skeptic channels basically went public and sold his narrative without questioning it. And he sort of got like a cult-like status from it. He skyrocketed into fame.
Absolutely cult-like status.
And so that's basically how he got his start now. Now he's into a lot of the self-help bullshit. He's basically just into Tony Robbins. But it's, it's none of it is profound or deep or anything. It's all basically the same shit that's been on motivational cat posters for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't really have that much. I have a little bit of problem with self-help stuff. But most of the problem I have with him is the bullshit he teaches about religion and Bill C-16 and his also his postmodernist, neo-Marxist boogeyman. He basically, like Alex Jones, had to make this boogeyman to fight. So Alex Jones created the Illuminati, this shadowy group that's going to kill us all that we have to fight against. Well, Jordan Peterson's done something very similar, except his boogeyman is the neo-Marxist postmodernist,
right?
Which I find rather ridiculous. I'm going to do a few videos of that in the future, too, to explain my position on that.
Are you planning on continuing making videos, kind of rebutting him?
Yeah. I have a whole series of videos I'm planning on. I'm so lazy, unfortunately. I should be doing at least 2 videos a week, and instead I'm doing 2 a month.
Yeah,
because I have so much going on in my life. But and
I think a lot of people are looking forward to those videos.
I get busy for sure.
So a question that I had was, I know that Jordan Peterson had a debate with Matt Dillahunty, and I was wondering your thoughts on that. And it all, it's still, I did touch on it, but it still really kind of shocks me because, like I said, when the skeptic community first started, it was like Christianity is the main thing that they focused on, being anti-Christianity. But now, all of a sudden, not only are they not opposed to the person who's just constantly, spitting Christian apologetics and other things and doing all this kind of mumbo-jumbo, he kind of takes something and then wraps it in something nice. He takes shit and then wraps it into something nice, and it's sort of this kind of apologetics. What do you think of the debate that he had with Matt Dillahunty, and do you think that there will be any good response from Jordan Peterson cultists or no?
I actually rewatched that last night, and I thought he got fucking destroyed by Jordan Peterson. I thought Jordan Peterson got destroyed by Matt Dillahunty, rather.
Yeah.
Sorry. And you can tell in the body language, too, Jordan Peterson was just, like, slouched over for the whole thing and just got his ass whooped by Matt Dillahunty. But the thing is the debate didn't really get seen that much. Like a Jordan Peterson video gets seen 1,000,000 times.
Right.
But, he gets his ass whooped by Matt Dillahunty, and nobody watches it. That's the sad thing. His fans, of course, don't spread it and shit because it made it look bad.
Yeah.
But you're right. To go back to why the skeptic community doesn't really challenge him as much, I think, it's because when they switched over to doing almost nothing but attacking social justice warriors, they built up a right-wing fan base. And, most of these guys are making, at least $10,000 a month on Patreon.
Yeah.
And a lot of that money is coming from the right-wing fan base. So they're kind of pigeonhole themselves now where they can't really speak out against religion and conservatism the same way they did anymore because they'll lose a lot of their money, a lot of their fan base. So I think that's the big problem there. But as far as that debate goes, Matt Dillahunty, I've had my problems with Matt Dillahunty before. A couple of years ago, we had like this falling out. It's like some of it was his fault, but I acted like a fucking jerk. Like I was wrong. Like I was straight up fucking an asshole about the whole thing. Like I was trying to be funny and edgy, and I went way too far with it and was an asshole to him. So he doesn't like me.
So just kind of
But
briefly, if you could sum that up, I mean, what exactly happened?
I was at an atheist convention one time, and Matt Dillahunty and his wife was there. His wife was extremely rude to me,
Mm-hmm.
but in a way, she was rude to me in a way that I felt was kind of flirtatious because I have a lot of like I don't want to sound conceited, but I have a lot of experience with women, and
Okay.
there's a certain way women will act towards you sometimes where they kind of it's almost like negging where they test you to see what your reaction is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just to try to gauge your interest in them basically. And that's sort of like, and I may be totally wrong. Maybe she just hated my guts. I have no idea. But I sort of felt like, and my understanding is not to like throw shade at him, but my understanding is they have an open relationship, and like sometimes at these conventions, they seek out other partners. That's
Oh.
not, I'm not making that up. That's true. Which is fine. Like I have an open relationship. Like I have no problem with that. That's the great thing about being an atheist. You don't have to worry about that getting made to feel guilty about that sort of thing. You could just have
Oh.
fun. But anyway, we got in a fallout on me and Matt Dillahunty and his wife got a fallout on Facebook about the fact that they were claiming that prejudice plus power equals racism. That only basically racism only exists systematically or systemically.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, in other words, black people can't be racist, and Mexicans can't be, or you couldn't be racist,
Hmm.
which obviously to me, I live in Mississippi. I've lived in a black neighborhood most of my life. I live in an all black neighborhood right now. I'm the only white guy within 6 blocks of here. And all these people have been great to me. But growing up in all black, neighborhoods of my life, I can guarantee you black people can be racist against white people.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that mugged me a month and a half ago was racist
Yeah.
as shit towards me. So me and Matt kind of got in a fight about that on Facebook. He basically called me a bunch of names. He called me a piece of shit and said I was too stupid to debate him. And I was like, let's do it, motherfucker. Let's debate right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he refused to debate me. And he went on the Drunken Peasant Show, which was TJ's
Right. Podcast.
podcast at the time. Yeah, I guess he's no longer on it. But and he wouldn't go on the show if I was allowed on there with him. He wouldn't go on. Yeah, he wouldn't allow me to debate him. So anyway, when I went on, I acted like an asshole, and I basically told him that I thought his wife wanted my dick,
Oh.
and I don't even talk like that. That's the thing. Like I don't even fucking talk. I've never said that about a woman in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that kind of guy. But I was just being a fucking jerk. Like I have no idea. Like I thought the reason I did it because I thought it was gonna be funny,
Mm-hmm.
but I just took it way too fucking far and acted like a dickhead, basically. So. If he's listening, I'm sorry. Like I was wrong. Like I was fucking straight up wrong about it, And I disagree with what you were saying. I understand what you were saying. I understand the whole systemic racism thing. I totally understand that. I get that. But I also disagree that black people and other minorities can't be racist with you. But as far as how I handled the whole situation, I was wrong. I have no ill will towards Matt Dillahunty whatsoever. I think he's a great guy, and I think he would be a great leader for the skeptic community, actually. For the atheist community, I think he should be way more famous than Jordan Peterson. The fact that he's not is crazy because he's such obviously a superior mind to Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's my whole thoughts on the Matt Dillahunty thing.
Okay. So I thought we'd just kind of switch into talking about politics a little bit here. So I was just curious as to what exactly your political positions are. If I'm not mistaken, you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. So if you could just kind of explain, what you would describe yourself as and what sort of things you support, that's what I was kind of curious about.
I guess I would consider myself a social democrat.
Mm-hmm.
I used to call myself a democratic socialist, but that's not what I am at all. Those two things are very different.
Yeah.
More like what Denmark is and the social democratic European countries.
Mm-hmm.
They've done study after study to find out what the happiest countries are, what the happiest citizens are. And at the top of the list, it's always the social democratic countries. There's,
Right.
It's not perfect, of course. We're human beings. There's never been a perfect government created, and we're still working towards that ideal. But as about as good as we've done on this earth, it seems like, are the social democratic countries like Denmark and whatnot. So that's kind of where I lean, I guess. I think capitalism has its good points. I think rewarding people for their ingenuity and their hard work to a certain level is actually good. It actually makes the world better. It makes more inventions, makes people work harder and stuff. But I think there has to be a limit on it. I think they've done studies that show like over 70 or $100,000 a year, the happiness you get kind of drops off.
Mm-hmm.
And so people that are making like billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, they're basically just leeches that are sucking money out of the system, where that money could go back into the system and help a lot more people.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of where I fall in there. I think that rich people, I guess I put it this way. You can't convince me that the problems with our society is that rich people have too little money.
I don't think
And
anyone can.
that's what conservatives seem to believe, though. You know,
Yeah.
they just passed the tax bill in the United States that puts $1 trillion on our credit card and gives it to the super rich among us, which is
Right.
insanity. You know, that's the last fucking thing we should be doing.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, obviously I'm also a big fan of things like universal health care. The fact that we're the only first world country on the goddamn planet who can't figure this out is insane to me. We're supposed to be the best country, and, you know, we can't figure out one of the most important things in history, you know?
Right.
So just basic common sense stuff like that, I think, is where I would describe myself.
So, you supported Bernie Sanders in the primary, if I'm not mistaken. You know, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you thought about the Hillary-Bernie primary, because, of course, there was a lot of rigging that went on, and I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
Well, first off, I think Bernie Sanders has made a mistake calling himself a socialist, because he's not. He's not even a socialist.
Yeah.
So I don't really get what he's coming. He's got to know the difference, certainly, but I understand he's trying to rebrand the word and make it. It's a word used to demean people and attack people by conservatives.
Yeah.
They'll call you a socialist to demonize you. So I guess he's trying to take the word back, but it's not really an accurate description of what he is. He's you know, he's a social democrat. But so I was on board with him for that, and obviously, yeah, I think the DNC basically, you know, rigged things against him to help Hillary to win, and I was very pissed about that. I actually, for a short time, was kind of a Trump supporter because I was so upset with the DNC. And I actually the main reason I was kind of a Trump supporter, because I kind of bought this talking point that the alt-right was spreading at that time, that Trump was actually a Democrat, and he was going to push the Republican Party to the left. You know, this is something that TJ made a video about, saying his video talking about how we should vote for Donald Trump. This was a very common. It was alt-right back then, but they're alt-right now. Like I said, it's a different. The word means a different thing now. But like on the Donald subreddit, that was a big talking point they were spreading. So for a very short time, I was so pissed off at the DNC and Hillary for fucking over Bernie. And I was like, all right, let's give Trump a try. But then I started actually reading what Trump wanted to do. I went and read his platform, made videos about it, and realized, oh shit, he's not gonna push anything to the left. Obviously, that's ridiculous. You know, he might have one time in his life called himself a Democrat, but now he's conservative as conservative gets. You know, so I jumped off that train real fucking quick, and I've been pretty heavily anti-Trump for the last year and a half. And as you pointed out before, pointing all this stuff out and talking about how the skeptic community switched and became more right wing, it cost me a lot of my subscribers, a lot of my audience. You know, I had a lot of hate videos made about me. Pretty much every popular YouTuber made a video putting me down, and that really put a huge dent in my numbers. And my income is probably 20% of what it was. Like I probably lost 80% of my income, but I don't regret it at all, because I can't say shit that I don't believe. Yeah. You know, so if it costs me money and fame, so be it. You know, there's a lot more important things in life than that, for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people definitely respect what you did, and I think that you almost have like a new kind of maybe more stronger fan base now because of what you did.
I'm playing 4D chess.
So how would you rate the Trump presidency? Not necessarily on a number scale, but what do you think of it? How's it going in your opinion?
It's awful. He can't even form a sentence. It's the most embarrassing. Like when Bush was president, I was thinking, holy shit, this is so embarrassing. I cannot believe this guy's. I'm so embarrassed for America right now. And it's like 100 times worse now. Yeah. It's like, the thing is when Bush got out of the White House, I said to myself, well, at least we would never have anybody in the White House that embarrassing again. At least our nation would have learned its lesson. But it's like we just regress. You know, the skeptics and conservatives like to use the term regressive. Yeah. But there's nothing fucking more aggressive than Trump. Absolutely. You know, we're going backwards as fast as we can possibly go. I mean, we need to be headed towards, you know, universal health care and a more sensible tax system and a more rigorous social safety net for the poor. And
Right.
we're going in the exact opposite fucking direction. It's regressive as it can possibly get. So,
Yeah.
not a fan. Let's just say that.
How do you think the Democrats should move forward? Do you think that because there's a lot of Democratic infighting that's been going on, do you think that they should focus more on trying to get progressives to run, or do you think they should focus more on the Hillary wing, or how should they go about defeating Trump or any other Republican in the future?
No more Hillary. Hillary's done. She's hugely unpopular. She could not beat Obama, who was a fledgling senator no one had ever heard of, and
Hmm.
she couldn't even fucking beat a reality show host. So, no more Hillary. Get Hillary out there. We need to change things up. Definitely, we need to get some more progressive voices in there, some younger voices. Not me. I'm unelectable, but there's like Matt Dillahunty. Would love to see him run for something. Even people like him at Meta, who I've also had my problems with. I have problems with everybody. I need to stop being such an asshole. But actually, even though me and him at Meta have problems in our past, I actually love him. Think he's great. Would like to see him run for something, And even Sam Harris has gotten some really bad press lately because of his whole.
Yeah, what do
Uh,
you think about that? Because I'm not so sure that he's more of a Sanders supporter or if he's just kind of anti-Trump, because I'm a little confused on his positions, because it seems more like he's more of a Hillary supporting type than he is a Sanders supporting type, because it just seems like it seems to be that most of the criticisms that Sam gives of Trump, if I'm not mistaken, is that he's very, someone who's not competent enough to be president, or someone who's just, like you said, can't form a sentence, and is someone who shouldn't be as the leader of the free world and things like that, rather than, we need to, this tax plan is stupid that they just passed, or getting out of the Paris Climate Accord is stupid, but destroying the Iran deal is stupid. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I was mainly talking about his recent trouble he's got over the race realism thing.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of where, he's gotten a whole lot of liberals are kind of bailing on him now because of his
Well,
interviews
how do
with
you feel
Murray.
about that?
Um,
More about the
it's
race realism stuff rather than the Charles Murray thing.
it's a really fucking complicated subject. And the main problem is the science is not settled on it at all. And people want to pretend like the science is settled on it,
Hmm.
and that's the problem. It's not. You can just go read the Wikipedia page about it, and you can see that like the American Anthropological Association has specifically come out and said that race is not even really a thing; it's a social construct.
Hmm.
And so I guess my problem is they want to pretend like the science is a lot more subtle than it actually is, and the debate still is incredibly far from that. And it's like if you don't admit that it's not as settled as they claimed it is, they want to claim you're a science denier,
Yeah.
but you're not actually. You're the one that's actually reading the science, and you're seeing all the scientists saying no. You
Hmm.
know, maybe this is true, but we don't believe it, and it's definitely not settled amongst us. So I guess what I would say about it is I've lived around black people my entire life, and I've never noticed anything that was that major. The
Hmm.
difference in there are stupid people fucking everywhere. There are stupid people of every race, and so I just think it's kind of. It seems to me mostly environmental, if not entirely. It's possible. It's possible there could be some biological, reason for it, at least to a small point, but since the science is not centered on that either, I don't know why you would go out and make those claims. I guess
So
that's the problem I have.
is this something that we should talk about or focus on? Because I don't know. I think it's just entirely useless.
It it's what some people call weaponized facts, and I'll put
Yeah.
facts in quote. Yeah, it's basically they'll say things that could be true, possibly true, but the reason they're saying it is because they're trying to denigrate other people.
Yeah.
And look, without a DNA test to know if somebody has these certain genes or not you're talking about that could make them either less intelligent or more intelligent, you have absolutely no idea what the person you're talking to is all about, or what their makeup of their character is. So to just put this blankets, black people across the board are less intelligent, it's
Yeah.
just like you said, it's meaningless. It serves no real purpose. But as with everything, it can definitely be talked about. I don't believe any topic should be taboo. Everything is worth discussing as long as you discuss it in an intellectually honest way and you understand these concepts are incredibly nuanced. People want to believe simple things because simple things are very easy for your mind to understand. But these concepts and they're not simple at all. They're incredibly complicated and nuanced. And so you have to have a very, very nuanced conversation about this in order to be honest.
I see. So, really quick, I kind of want to switch over a little bit. Someone you made a video on is Dave Rubin. I was wondering what your thoughts are on Dave because he's, I don't know if you consider him part of the skeptic community now, but I mean, I would kind of argue he's kind of intertwined in there because he's, talked to Jordan Peterson a bunch of times and has him on a reasonable amount. Now, you made a video about him. He's an interesting, case study because he used to be on the Young Turks, which is a left-wing, online news network. But he has, recently, the past year or two, basically become a conservative, and he's now making $31,000 a month on Patreon as well. So I was curious to know what your thoughts on Dave are.
He's an opportunist.
Uh-huh.
He saw, like Jordan Peterson, who said, "I found a way to monetize social justice warriors."
Yeah,
and he laughed about that.
I actually want to get your opinion on that too, actually, because that's interesting that he said that because I was trying to look for the response from other people, but it seemed like people who were Peterson fans were all excited about that. And
they don't give a shit.
Yeah, it seemed, but it's like the way that he's making money is not off the SJWs. The money's coming in from his own fans.
Yeah, it's from him.
I don't understand it.
It's like saying Mexico's going to build the wall, and then he's going to build the wall because we're going to put a tariff on Mexican goods, which means Americans are actually going to pay for the wall. It's the same shit.
It's really
he hasn't monetized social justice warrior. All he's done is create social justice warrior hysteria and made money off the right wing fan base who buys into his conspiracy theories.
That made no sense.
And that's exactly what Rubin does as well. They basically they saw the rise in popularity of social justice warrior hysteria on YouTube. So many channels jumping on the bandwagon. And I actually saw the same thing. I thought about doing it myself. I actually made a couple of anti-social justice warrior videos myself. And before I realized that's probably not the best route for me to take. That's something I don't really agree with all that much. But, in a way, it's smart. It's almost like a televangelist. Realizing you have marks and there's a way you can make them afraid and you can make money off them. But at the same time, it's extremely dishonest. So if you're the type of person that can do it, you can make big bucks. But if you have integrity, not so much.
So I was actually kind of curious because you're liberal and left wing. I was curious about because you said I think the title was Black Lives Matter is bad for black people. I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of people on the left were not really fans of that.
I've sort of changed my opinion a little bit. I do think there are a lot of things the Black Lives Matters community has done that's alienated allies, I would say, white people who would normally be their allies, but they made missteps. And I do think that they picked bad examples, people that they shouldn't have picked. What's the guy, Brown, is that his name? The guy that went to the convenience store.
Mike Brown?
Yeah, Mike Brown robbed the convenience guy. And, of course, they had video of now he robbed another store before he went over there. And then he attacked a cop. All the DNA evidence said he attacked the cop. They found his blood inside the cop's car where he was punching the cop through the window. All the witnesses said basically that if they were the cop, they would have shot Mike Brown faster because Mike Brown was trying to kill the cop basically. And when Black Lives Matter picks people like that to be their to be their, I guess, victims, it doesn't make them look good. There's so many better examples that they could use, like that Castile guy who was a teacher who got shot in his car because he was.
Don't you think there's a bunch of other examples that they've used that are legitimate, like Freddie Gray and
yes, that's what I'm saying. I think they've made missteps where they pick people they shouldn't, but they've also done lots of good things and said lots of things that I totally agree with. And of course, when they go and they chant stuff like. Fry them up like bacon, pigs in a blanket, fry them up like bacon, and then people go out and shoot cops. That is not good for your movement, So, in my opinion, they have made a lot of missteps. And, of course, I don't agree with them blocking traffic. I think blocking traffic, I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to get attention, and they realize the best way to get attention is to do stuff like this. But it actually, in my opinion, hurts them. It makes people that would normally be their allies not want to be associated with them. And they do other things, too. Like they'll have like segregated their meetings, not invited white people or people who would normally be their allies, and of course that goes against exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Yes. Segregation doesn't help you.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've had some problems with their missteps, but overall I do understand what they're trying to do. I do understand that that there are problems that they're trying to fight and face, and I support them when they do it correctly. But when they don't do it correctly, just like anybody else, they deserve the criticism, in my opinion.
So was your opposition of Black Lives Matter more of like what they supported in terms of like what they were trying to get, or like their goals, or was it kind of because they have made mistakes like the frying like bacon stuff and things like that? What
It's
would you?
not really their goals. I think their goals are fairly, normal. I think I don't think as far as black people being killed by a higher percentage by the police, a lot of that absolutely does have to do with the fact that black people commit more crimes. And so, on average, if black people commit more crimes, obviously they're going to have more interaction with the police and be more likely to.
But don't you think that's not really like a fair thing though? Because just because there's more interactions doesn't mean there should be kind of slack given in terms of this person, because like we see like with Eric Garner, I mean that's not really excusable just because they have more interactions. Have you seen the video of Eric Garner?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, like I just feel like that's maybe a little bit more, but I don't know. I don't think to the extent that we see.
Well, I mean, yeah, but see, the problem, I'm trying to see how to explain this. One of the major things they complain about is that on average, black people are killed at a much higher rate than white people are. But obviously, if you have an incredibly larger amount of interactions with the police, you're going to be shot or harmed at a higher percentage of the rate. That's just basic statistics. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a blue guy and a red guy, and the red guy has 100 interactions with the police, and the blue guy has 10 interactions with the police, it's much more likely the red guy is going to have a bad outcome because he has much more interactions with the police. So that does absolutely play into some of the problem. And I'm not saying that Black Lives Matter is not trying to combat black crime or black on black crime, because they are. There's black events all the time that are trying to point out black on black crime and help solve it and find meaningful ways to solve it. But it's still a big problem. I mean, it's not racist to say that the black crime thing is a problem, because it is. Statistically, it is a problem. Black people make 13% of the population, and they're committing half the violent crimes. I mean, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Now why this is so is another, complete different conversation, which I think has to do a lot with poverty, culture, hundreds of years of oppression.
What do you think would be the best solution to combat that problem that you just stated?
I think there probably should be a bigger focus on poverty, I would think. Not just focus on black communities, but poverty at large. Maybe have neighborhood rebeautification programs where they go in some of these neighborhoods that are torn down, have been destroyed by poverty, and try to make them better. Mentor programs that involve low-income neighborhoods, stuff like that, more scholarships, stuff like that. Lift people up, I think, is the proper way to do that. But not really so much focus on race, but instead focus on poverty.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I think if you focus on poverty instead of race, you get a lot less pushback, because you get so many people screaming about identity politics, or white people afraid that they're going to help somebody that's a different race, because white people are fucking, not all of them of course, but a lot of them still, like, that's a big reason that the social safety net is not bigger in this country, because a lot of white people don't like the idea of brown people getting stuff for free.
Yeah,
I live in Mississippi. I can guarantee you that's exactly what's happening here. So if you focus just on poverty instead of race, it brings a lot of people into the fold that normally wouldn't come into the fold, in my opinion.
I see. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about Steven Crowder. You also made a video about him, and I was just curious in general as to what your thoughts are on kind of his show. And also, I guess if you can kind of expand on the video you made about his, which I thought was a little bit random. Just him making the video claiming that the AIDS epidemic was a hoax was just a bit of a surprise, because I don't understand why that would be something you'd want to make a video about now. And
it was actually going out and picking stats that were not true and showing stats and being very, very deceptive.
Yeah.
But, that's just what he does. He's not one of these right-wing guys who has found a way to monetize social justice warriors. It's just there's so many of them. There are all these cookie cutter channels. They're all doing exactly the same thing. He's a great speaker. He's great at what he does, has real high production values, and I understand why he's popular, but it's just like he's just a new version of Rush Limbaugh. I was a Republican when I was 12. When I was 12, I was reading Rush Limbaugh books. I would go listen to his radio program every single day.
Really?
Love Rush Limbaugh. Yeah.
Every single day?
Oh, every day. Like other
Wow.
12-year-old kids were out playing in ditches, and I was inside listening to Rush Limbaugh. That's the kind of kid I was.
Wow.
And so, to me, Crowder's just the 2.0 or 3.0. He's just the next generation of it. You know, it's the same old bullshit. They've been saying
That's
the
true.
same old bullshit forever. It's just a new package, you know, a new shiny ass package. And a lot of the kids who really haven't had as much exposure to it, they fall for it, you know.
Right.
But when you get old and you get a little wisdom, you eventually, hopefully, can see through a lot of that bullshit.
I think you really have a point there actually because he advocates for literally the full on repeal of Obamacare, which is something that really isn't palatable to the American people or really is popular at all whatsoever. And it's like there's no difference between his viewpoints and Ben Shapiro's viewpoints against someone like Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck or whoever. So, I think you definitely have a point there.
They're regressives, you
Yeah,
know.
that's what it
The
seems
right wing
like.
party is way more regressive. I hate that they fucking call liberals regressive because it's so stupid, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so just a little finish off here. I know a lot of people have been asking about this. Any updates on the whole weed dealer situation where you got mugged?
See, you're ruining the surprise. I have a video
Oh.
planned where I was going to talk about this. I'll talk about it a little bit. Okay,
Okay.
so you know my Uncle Pete is the mayor of the town.
Yeah.
I guess you watched that video.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out my Uncle Pete hates my guts. I didn't know this, but apparently Uncle Pete not a fan.
Uh-oh.
And so he was basically like, fuck you, I ain't helping you.
What?
Yeah.
Does that have to do with religion at all or no?
Yeah.
Yeah?
They don't like my channel. They don't like the fact I'm an outspoken. I mean,
Wow.
I'm the most famous atheist in Mississippi, you know, and I'm definitely
Probably
the
the
most
most
famous.
famous, right?
Probably somebody who's specifically known for atheism. Probably there are
Okay.
people who are atheists and are more famous, but they're not specifically known for atheism.
Okay.
So yes, as somebody who's specifically an atheist speaker, I'm probably the most famous person in Mississippi, and definitely the most famous person in the town I grew up in.
Yeah.
You know, which is 500 people. And so they apparently don't like me. I was sent sort of veiled threats from my Uncle Pete not to come
What?
back to the town. Yeah.
Wow.
But as far as Rudy Wiley, the guy that mugged me, goes, he's been in hiding apparently. And even though Uncle Pete doesn't want to help me, there's other things that are going on behind the scenes that are not looking too good for Rudy Wiley. Apparently, regardless of where Uncle Pete wants to help me or not, there are some other, let's say, organizations, drug task forces that are already in that area who have already had an eye on him for a while,
Okay.
and it has nothing to do with me at all. It was before I even got mugged by him. But from my understanding, yeah, it's not looking good for him.
But that surprised me that your uncle is not a fan of yours or isn't willing to outright go out of his way to help you as much as possible because you're an atheist. I mean, isn't that nuts?
Not for me. You know, I've pretty much been abandoned by my entire family since a decade ago when I started doing this. I actually did a couple of videos where I read letters from my family.
Yes, I have seen one from your aunt.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. You know, they're showing me the love of Christ.
Yeah,
That's what they always
isn't
do.
that like an inherent hypocrisy because it's almost like you're supposed to treat everyone with love and kindness and stuff, but
That's
if you're an
Christianity for you.
atheist, you know,
Christianity is full of hypocrisy. That's religion. You know, that's
what
why
it seems
one of the
like.
big reasons I'm not a Christian anymore. You know,
Yeah,
they
that
showed me
makes
the love
sense.
of Christ, and I wanted nothing to do with it.
Okay, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much, dude. I
Thank
really
you for having me. I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
All right, thank you so much, man. Anything you got to say?
Uh, Love all you guys. Thanks for watching. And until next time, as always,
All right.
logic. Fuck
Logic.
yes.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Later, dudes. Thanks, man.